Hi, I'm Sharon Wren,
And I'm Linda Cook.
and this is QC Crime Watch. This week we'll be taking a look back at some of the court cases we've written about this week and follow up on some of the ones we've mentioned in the past. But before we go any farther, neither one of us has any legal training, so we cannot and will not answer questions.
And we can't for several reasons. Not only are we not attorneys, but it also would be a conflict of interest for us. So
You might want
sorry.
to, you might want attorneys that have, been to law school.
Yeah.
I've seen law textbooks. That's as close as I come.
Yeah. I had a little law school in my background, and let me tell you, it is not like kindergarten. It is the books are dense, the cases are dense, and I think I am too. So
All right. Well, speaking of the judicial system, we
yes.
talked in the past about how it takes time. It could take months, maybe years. We
Years.
have the exception today.
Right.
There was a crime that was committed on Valentine's Day of this year,
Okay, so that's
and
not even 6 months ago. That's
nope,
okay.
the person has already made a plea and been sentenced.
Oh
Now,
my goodness.
yeah, good. Well, back on
Oh,
Valentine's Day, police in Rock Falls responded to a report of a stabbing in the town. And they found a man named Daniel Gordon, who was 27 from Rock Falls, with severe injuries. They took him to a hospital and he later died from the injuries.
oh,
Now, the suspect in the case, Kyle Cooper, age 36, who's also from Rock Falls, was arrested in connection with the stabbing. On May 22nd, Cooper waived formal arraignment and pleaded guilty to a charge of second-degree murder. He was originally charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated battery. He gave an unsworn statement, victims' impact statements were read, and he was sentenced to 20 years in the Illinois Department of Corrections, followed by 1 year of mandatory release, and he gets credit for 97 days served.
wow, that is swift justice.
Yeah, just this is the exception, not the rule.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Now, the case that I am going to talk about may take a while because it involves a younger person and a brother, and this happened 4 days ago. And this is Friday. We're recording on a Friday. A teen drove a Rock Island squad car from Rock Island to Davenport. And
Teenager.
you're probably wondering, how did he get in the driver's seat? Well, two teen brothers, one is 16, one is 18. That means that one is considered a juvenile by the courts, the other is considered an adult. And they both face charges after the 16-year-old took the squad car and drove it to Davenport, injuring an officer in the process. This was Monday, shortly before 1:15 p.m. A stolen red Kia, there's more than one vehicle involved in this,
Okay.
was heading at a high rate of speed west on 7th Avenue in Rock Island, and it tried to turn on to 15th Street and struck another vehicle. Now, that it hit it so hard that the Kia became disabled, and two masked suspects were seen running from the Kia. So, in the Rock Island County documents, it says it should be noted that this vehicle had been seen driving recklessly several times over the past 24 hours, including intentionally swerving at officers. Okay, so while on his way to work in a marked squad car, a Rock Island K-9 handler, police officer, was flagged down in the area of 7th Street, and people were saying these people are over here, the fleeing suspects are over here. So the officer radioed the information into the Rock Island PD, and then he tried to locate the suspects. So at 19th Street and 6th Avenue, he found Tayshawn Clark, who was 18, who was wearing a mask, and the officer got out of his squad to detain Mr. Clark. Now, while the officer struggled with Clark, Tayshawn Clark's younger brother, who was 16, entered the squad car and tried to drive it away. The officer tried to regain control of the vehicle, of course, but in the process, and this is according to court records, the teenager dragged the officer through the parking lot and caused several injuries to the officer. Now, the officer fell from the vehicle, and then the teen took off in the car. Now, I want to point this out. These things happen in nanoseconds. And I am not probably the quickest thinker in the world. I don't know how the officer thought to let go because you want to hang on
Yeah.
when you're being dragged by anything. But I think that's the nature of us as human beings. But anyway, he wisely let go. And so the younger brother took off into Davenport.
And we should note that the K-9 is still in the car.
That is correct. There's a kennel like area in K-9 cars. And so this is what the documents say. It should be noted that there were no firearms inside the squad at this time, but K-9 Blue was still in the squad's kennel. So the squad was tracked using an automatic vehicle locator, or AVL, and they found the squad unoccupied in Davenport in the 1900 block of Dixwell Street. This was near Rockingham Road. Davenport police also found the 16-year-old in a nearby residence and took him into custody for, and I will quote this from the police, an existing juvenile health and safety warrant for escape. The officer was transported to the hospital for treatment of his injuries, and he was released fairly soon after that, so he's okay. And the dog was found unharmed, so he's okay. The Rock Island Police Department would like to extend its appreciation to the Davenport Police Department and the Scott County Sheriff's Office for their assistance in this incident, says a news release from Rock Island PD. Now, our crew was there on the scene, so we got some footage of officers in the area. We knew that where the house was. We cannot show the person who's considered to be a juvenile.
Right.
So
we're not given that information.
Right, but we were there, and just today, I found out that Tayshawn Clark, who is still listed in Rock Island County in the jail, has a preliminary hearing at 10:30 a.m. June 3rd. So I imagine one of us will be there.
Yeah.
Probably going to be you. So since Sharon does the day side stuff and I do the night side stuff, so we come together in the afternoon in this podcast.
She sees all the weird crimes at night, and I follow them in court during the day.
Right, exactly. And once again, we always talk about this: lock your cars. Right now, obviously, this officer couldn't have done that,
no.
But see how quickly things escalate when someone gets behind the wheel of a car that doesn't belong to them. So again, lock your cars, folks. Can't say it enough.
Well, on the subject of cars, the winner of this week's most unusual case might be the case of a stolen car found in LeClaire, which sounds innocent. A staff member at the McDonald's in LeClaire called police on May 21st because they wanted a person in a car removed from the parking lot. It was about 10:30 at night. They were possibly trying to close. So the responding officer showed up, ran the car's license plates as they do, and made contact with a person named Octavia Porter, age 30, from Riverside, Missouri, who was sleeping in front of the car. Not in the front seat, in front of the car.
Front of the car.
Yes. Meanwhile, dispatch told the officer that the car had been stolen out of Kansas. And they confirmed that with the Douglas County, Kansas Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
The car was valued over $1,500, but less than $10,000. She was arrested and charged with felony theft. She's in the Scott County Jail on a $1,000 cash-only bond and has a preliminary hearing on May 30th.
What just wow. And there's so much more to this story than what we can glean from documents.
Right, and it might come out at the trial, but this is, how did a woman from Missouri steal a car in Kansas and then get to Iowa?
And sleep in front of it.
And sleep in front of it in a McDonald's. I mean, and that McDonald's is right off the interstate, so.
There's a movie there somewhere. You know what I mean? This is so, there's so many plot twists and arcs. Very, very strange.
It's just weird enough. We're going to definitely be keeping an eye on it.
We need to. We need to.
Well, Crime Stoppers of the Quad Cities recently released their impact report, and this is kind of neat.
This is
Last year,
interesting.
yes, last year the group received over 1,400 leads. That led to 81 arrests and solving 106 crimes. And over the past 42 years, they have received over 29,000 tips, made almost 4,000 arrests, and handed out almost $500,000 in reward money. That's
That's
a success
cool.
story.
That's a
Yeah,
success story. And you know, we're not talking about vigilantism here, and I think it's
yeah,
really important that we stress that.
right,
But we're talking about a system that does allow you to be anonymous,
right.
and really, really helps when you can be the eyes and ears when you see something. If you say something, not only might you help solve a crime, you might end up with a little extra cash.
And they've made it even easier now. Now there's an app.
It's a
There's an app
great
for
system,
everything.
great system.
So, one we
Um,
support. Yes.
Now we have an interesting civil case going on, or that did go on this week, right?
Right.
And again, this is not a criminal case, but it's a case that involves the city of Davenport. And I'll let you talk about that because you were there.
Well, I thought I was there just for a simple, mild mannered hearing. This case is a resident of Davenport, Alan Dierks, Dr. Alan Dierks, if I remember
Mhm.
right, who is suing the city in a civil case over violations of the Open Meetings Act in Iowa.
Right,
And the short version of it, the Open Meetings Act is you're not hiding things, the public can see what happened at the meeting.
right. And he actually he lives in Bettendorf but owns property in Davenport, so that allows him to
That's his
speak,
Davenport
speak as a
connection.
Davenport resident. And he says again that, like you said, that this they violated the Open Meetings Act when they made these settlements with three employees.
Or, yeah,
So, right. And
multi-million-dollar.
right. So this is again civil, but not criminal. And so what was the upshot of what's going to happen in this case?
We have skipped right to closings. I Again, we thought we were there just for a mild-mannered court hearing, and the prosecution rested.
Okay.
The defense was a bit surprised, and one of their witnesses was not available, so they had to run over to City Hall to get another one.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
luckily this
So,
person did not call in sick.
so closing arguments though have not
Yes.
been given, which is I
No.
find this very interesting.
Well, they didn't. They were trying to hold off on closing arguments because they might introduce other things. But when neither side had any more witnesses to call, the judge said, it's time for the closing arguments, which he asked them to provide in writing. And
So,
this is the first time I've ever heard of closing arguments being submitted to a judge in writing.
and honestly, I looked this up, and that's because we don't cover many civil suits.
Oh,
This happens in civil suits more than it does I've never heard of it in a criminal suit before, but I guess this is not unusual.
right.
So that's why.
So they have until June 6th to submit these written closings.
Right. And we'll be trying to track those as soon
Yes,
as we can.
as soon as we can.
Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate this. I'm so glad you were there in the courtroom. It's never
Surprise.
not interesting. And you never know what's going to happen.
That is true. Every once in a while, it's kind of like on TV.
Well, I think that's about all we have time for today. I'm sure things will happen over the Memorial Day weekend. So make me wrong, folks. Prove me wrong. Be safe. Um,
Uber is a thing if you've had a little.
yes, yes. And
We don't
then
want to see you for OWI.
that's right. And then Sharon and I won't have anything to write about. So we would like that for this Memorial Day. Thank you all so much for listening to us.
And join us again next week for more on the crimes that make the Quad Cities hopefully lock their car and house doors at night.